Got it. So let's go to the second part, which, as you know, it's much more interactive, and I would need your support. So maybe we can start by just a Q&A. Maybe it is the best way, and let's keep the focus of thinking of the year into 52 weeks. So quarter two is almost finished, right? So we have quarter three and quarter four, and we have 13 weeks in-ish. So it would be good to get out of this session with your goals until September, and then a preview about December, then to plan 2019. So I will maybe use it to write down some ideas that you would have, but maybe let's start with Q&A. It's there, the microphone. Okay. So who would like to start? It would be a difficult exercise, I see. Especially after lunch. Do you have a question?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So there is no specific question. From what I've shared with you this morning, maybe we can start. What did you find that most intrigued you during the presentation in the morning? And what are the main questions that are popping up on your mind now? If you would need to execute something in order to promote your scale-up ecosystem in the 90 days, what are the things that you are still confused about in order to have clarity to define a goal for the next 90 days? If it was everything so much clear, you don't have any questions, what is your goal at the end of the next 90 days? And I was asking if you have any questions about what I shared in the morning, and that over lunch you start thinking about it, and something that you didn't catch so well that you are confused about. So that was the goal of my first question. Thank you. No worries. It's quite simple. Yeah. Scaling up is still there. Yeah. Thank you. That one it was with the wrong pen, so it's permanent. Sorry. Oh, perfect.
I think I missed the first part of your lecture.
Yeah.
So just would like to
just
ask
give me
you
a little bit of context. So what is your role?
Okay. So my name is Sansanalak. You can call me Pla. I'm the director of King Mongkut University of Technology, Thonburi Science and Industrial Park. Mm-hmm. So that's the role as a director. So when our science park has been established like 30 years ago, but it's just like only university industrial park at that time. Then we turned into the real science and industrial park just recently. Mm-hmm. So So what we have, we focus on the technology-based company startups. So my question is like, could you give the summary or the suggestion? I mean, I just want you to clarify or explain. Maybe you already explained, but what is the difference? Is it the same to scale up the tech-based startup and the non-tech-based? I mean, in my opinion, technology-based is more like biotechnology-based. Mm-hmm. And the other type of startup, like, IT-based. So are there any difference?
Okay, so now you are asking if there is how to help companies to scale up in the tech segment or biotech?
Biotech.
So what is the difference between tech and biotech, for instance?
No. The biotech
digital and biotech.
And IT, yeah. Biotech and IT,
and
for
IT.
example. Yeah.
Okay, I would say that biotech is really a tough vertical. I think that's the, they're always supporting me. I think they should come to this side. So the rules are completely different. I would say that this kind of programs should have a vertical just for biotech or life sciences, and another vertical for digital. If possible, inside digital, as we saw in the startup journey of improving the programs, we start the verticalization of the programs, and usually we have biotech incubators, biotech accelerators. So I would say for scale-ups, it would be the same, because the challenges are completely different. And you are right. So for a biotech company, it's much more risky for the investor, much more risky even for the entrepreneur. It will take at least 10, 15 years, 20 years to start scaling up. So it's, or even you will not scale up because you will sell the license or the technology or the IP even before building a business. So in some cases, you will never build a business. So you will just protect the IP and sell to a large corporate, and it's done. It's about starting again with a new technology, with the resources now to bootstrap again. And maybe some of these entrepreneurs would want to create their own businesses. It also happens. It's quite difficult. I think it's even more difficult than in the digital championship that we have been talking this morning, because again, it's really long term. And if we discussed that from 20 to 70, and with 20 need to start quite early, he would need 10 opportunities to start up a company each 5 years. In the case of a life science or a biotech companies, you definitely will only have 5 attempts. And I don't know too many people who were able to start so many biotech companies. So yes, I agree with you that you would need to have different programs. The question is always there is there is enough significant amount of companies to run a program like this. So in that case, I would say that it goes again to the startup momentum in the way that it would be very difficult to make initiative which is self-sustainable and profitable for the supporting organizations who are promoting biotech. So it makes all sense, because it's about, and by the way, I think that we are approaching a next wave of entrepreneurship, which would be much more deep tech. And deep tech, the life cycle of the company from starting up to scaling up will be again much more years than what it is today, about creating an e-commerce platform or an app solution. So it's much more scalable in such a short amount of time. The amount of resources needed to prove to achieve product market fit are much less than as in a biotech company. I would say that deep tech is really the trend. We see a huge investment, and deep tech is not, of course, only biotech, it's AI, it's IoT, and so on. But I think that it will require much more technology, and much more linkage with universities too, to promote this kind of defensible technology. So in my vision of the world, we are walking to a world of a kind of a oligopoly or a monopoly of some of the best tech companies in the world. So the way to really disrupt the industries of the future will be much more through deep tech. The good part about it is, or the good or bad, it depends on the angle. I like to the good side is that maybe you would not need to build so many businesses. You would sell the IP earlier. This would be good news for the university, because we have been discussing a lot how to transfer knowledge into innovation, into commercial revenues, into profitability. And this would be the opportunity for the universities to have an unfair advantage in the market and to create a lot of value. So I see very good times at the importance of universities and science parks going up in the upcoming years, because again, starting up will be even tougher, because it could not be another platform, another social media app. It could not be a Line or a Facebook or a Google or a LinkedIn or an Amazon, Traveloka or this kind of companies. It needs to be much more AI-based. It's like in the UK, benevolent.ai, for instance, Palantir, or companies that are not so well known in the B2C world, are much more B2B oriented. I don't know if there is not a magic formula, but I agree with you that if you run a biotech, you would need a biotech program as you need on the startups for the scale-ups. Any follow-up question? This could be a conversation. So.
I got your point. It's good for us to think about it and how to.
Yes.
To follow, just how to start and follow up on that.
Okay. So, is there a second question or
No.
where? Okay. So, who wants to go next with? Yeah.
Sorry, my voice kind of weird today, but okay. So I'm Ton. I'm from Naresuan University. I'm Deputy Director of Science Park at Naresuan University. And my question is about, we've been talking about we trying to make Science Park more financially sustainable in the sense that, relying less and less on government funding, right? But, the way to bring in the revenues, that people mostly talk about is like, we try to get funding from the private sector somehow, right? But one of the problems that we face, especially in our area, is that most of our clients right now are SME. Like, they're very small business. They're like, farmers. There's like, people who have like, the revenue themselves are very small, right? And so they don't really have that much capacity in terms of like, paying for like, consulting fee or anything like that. And over the past, decades or more than that, they're kind of like used to the fact that, the government gonna pay for everything, right? In terms of like, incubating the business or like, consulting, help advise them about like, technologies or anything,
yeah.
Right? So, and it would be in their mind, it would be very difficult if, one day we come up and say like, okay, all right, we're gonna help you, but you need to pay some money
yes.
to us, right? So what is your advice on that? And is there any cases that might be a good example for how people get around this problem?
Yeah. So good news for you. Everyone in the world is facing the same problem. Bad news, it's a difficult problem to solve. And I think that this morning we discussed a potential way of solving the problem. Why? Because you would need the players who have the power and the interest in this innovation. So you would have two customers, right? So you would have a customer which is corporate. And as in a business, we do the business model, canvas, and so on. You need to have a value proposition, a clear value proposition where you have an unfair advantage. As we were discussing, universities can propose an unfair value proposition. The science parks, if they have really competitive advantages. So in a certain way, you need to start up your own business. Because this is clearly a question, and it's clear to all, it's a discovery question. How do I make money? And I know that your goal is not to make it super profitable, but to make it sustainable. How do I make that my revenues are at the same level of my costs and that I have impact with my mission, right? And accomplish my vision. So I was born as my mission to accomplish something in the next 3 years as my vision, and my P&L works at the break-even. So again, you would need to find out the different products and services that you can develop to serve the different target audiences. It's the same that you do in the acceleration incubation programs. Usually that's what happens. So I would say corporates is a way, in a certain way, de-risking, because in the next wave, the investors will also have a big challenge. They are very used to evaluate digital-based companies, and they understand the business, but they will need to adapt themselves to the deep tech trend that is coming. Again, do you remember about you were successfully starting up, you were successfully growing the company till the 25 employees, and then the game completely changed. And if you keep running your VC firm, your corporate, your science park, your university is the same way that you were managing it before, you will fail miserably. So we need to be always adapting and looking to the trends outside. So kind of the external audit, the internal audit, what are our strengths, what are the opportunities, what are my weaknesses, what are the threats, and how can I keep going and executing my vision, making it sustainable. So I would say this would be a second way. A third way, I would say that a lot of scale-ups also already have resources to pay for this service. The good news about the program that I told is that maybe the first editions you need to pay to make them aware that there is a scale-up program, but maybe the third or the fourth edition, the companies already can pay themselves because you have the alumni, you have the track record, so which means that it starts being a source of income, and having this source of income, you can start serving another segment that clearly will never be profitable and accomplishing your mission. So which means that if you are able to solve the pains of corporates, investors, and scale-ups, you will make enough money to reinvest in the area where they don't have money to pay you, and even the SMEs that you were talking about. So I think that this is the exercise. If we look directly to this part or to the early stage of the scale-ups, it will be very difficult to make something which is sustainable. So the idea is how can we add value to this segment and then reinvest the resources here. I've done the same kind of job in Portugal with the association that was running that program. And this was the crisis that they have faced themselves too. And it was several workshops, several discussions with the president, with the board about, and especially they look to you trying to find a solution for the next 6 or 12 months. And unfortunately, it isn't like a business. We talked about starting up, it's 10 years or 5 years at least. So finding a solution in the next 12 months, it's really impossible. This is not a short-term goal. And as a supporting organization, it could be even more tricky to find out a solution. So I would say, maybe I'm forgetting another source of income, but I would say that it's to have very clear what is the value proposition and then start building the product. And again, it's customer discovery. It's go to talk to them. And again, don't talk to 50. Select the top 10, have conversations with the top 10. Tell me what worries you. What are your big goals for the next 90 days, for the next 365 days, 52 weeks ahead? So what do you think would be my role to support you? But to have crystal clear what are their goals in the upcoming months, in the upcoming years, and try to understand what is your competitive advantage and fair advantage to serve them, and find a way. It could be a membership in some cases too, so we can have products where they pay for the products or for the services, and at the same time to have access to some of the I would say that one of the products, and we need to be much more creative than saying, oh, we provide innovation to you. No. Okay, we provide a vertical or an open innovation program where we'll find the startups for your vertical, and again, and we need to talk about numbers. How much does it cost to you to start a new product inside your company? It's 100 million? Okay, we just want 10 million, 10% of your budget for innovation to apply in our programs for startups. So now you start talking their language. This would be also the difficult part, again, communication. That's why I strongly encourage you to go deeper, start with the ones that you have more trust with, of course, as we talk with the startups, with the ones who already trust you, where you have a reputation, where they respect you, they admire you, maybe some of your alumni, in some cases, that are big, and involve them even in the challenge. Because if you can provide value to them, they're happy to be involved, and maybe they will also tell you the solution that they envision, and then it's about execution, right? So I would say products that are related to serving corporates, innovation could be a pillar. Investors, I think it's much more about de-risking. Imagine in the deep tech wave that is coming, it's very difficult to them to analyze if this is, let me use the word bullshit, or something that really, it's a reality that could be scalable. It's very, very difficult for them. In the biotech space, much more. Maybe some of them will need to start going to another industries or opening up new industries. You can be their trust partner or their source of deal flow. I would say this is one of the challenges. These guys, as a fund that needs to be deployed in 5 years, they need to invest in 10 companies, and they need to have a return of investment of X in 10 years, and return the profit to their LP in order to be able to raise the next fund. So de-risking, giving them access to deal flow could be another way. It's more difficult this way than this way. Helping these guys to invest in companies, this could be a good mix. Scale-ups, we have discussed it, all the ways that you can support them. Again, access to capital, access to market, leadership development, programs, etc., etc. I think a great chunk of them will be able to pay this. And after you solve it out, you solve this part, or I would say, I would start just with one segment. How is prioritization, right? We only have 90 days ahead, 13 weeks. We can't do everything. This is too much. So let's start with one thing, just one thing, and keep the team completely focused on one thing with one metric, one goal, tracking every single week in our weekly meetings what we need to do in order to get close to the goal, and to celebrate every single step that we achieve. So, and getting praise to everyone, understanding what are the skills that the team needs to get there. Even maybe, as we talked in startups, you figure out that a certain part of your team is not the right team to get there. So you need to hire people, you need to fire people, you need to change the team. It's difficult, but it's what happens in business every single day. In a startup, the founding team changes a lot. Even the next team will change a lot. It's how it works. So I think that having the right, again, it seems a little bit ridiculous, but we are talking here about the principles of starting up a business and of scaling up a business in the next stage. That's all we teach in the incubators and in the accelerators to our graduates. And by the way, now in the MBAs, in the entrepreneurship courses, etc., we need to apply what we are preaching to them. And by the way, this was something that I was discussing. I will not disclose the organization, but you already guessed from what I said. As an association of entrepreneurs, as an incubator, as an accelerator, we need to apply what we preach. We need to be the example of good management. If not, it will happen that entrepreneurs will not trust us and they will not come. So, which means that we will not serve one of the segments. If this segment doesn't see us as thought leaders, as really people that help them, as we were discussing, we are not in good position to help corporates because we don't have the value proposition to offer them. We don't have the value proposition to offer investors. So serving the startups, it's a way of serving the clients who would pay you to do the job. So that's the business model, that's the canvas, that's what you need to do to have the strategic conversations with your team, brainstorming about how do you produce your canvas, how do you validate the idea, how do you create the product, how do you iterate the product, how do you start serving different customers with the same product, and so on and so on. It's not an easy question. Again, good news. Everybody in the world is facing these challenges. So all the governments are looking, okay, show me the results. And there is no infinite money to support organizations. We were discussing it. Natural selection will start happening. Who performs better gets funding. Who doesn't perform well disappears. Who is able to generate revenues can grow, scale, and do much more, and do internationally, position the organization international. And at a certain time, it's not anymore a local or a regional organization. It could be a local in terms of headquarters, but their impact is really global. And that's what we also wish to our companies. So again, we should achieve what we preach to them. Great question. Two great questions, by the way. So sustainability, then we're talking about biotech, and I would say deep tech. It's the main trend. You see the huge investment that China, France, UK, of course, US are doing. It's really a war that is going on this space, because it's about what we discussed. It's about the productivity. If you have the IP, you have the revenues, and the costs will not go like this. The costs will go like this, and the revenues will go like this. It's scalable. Because then that IP can be applied to multiple verticals. It keeps scaling the business. And this is curious, and this could be also counterintuitive in the sense that it will take maybe more years to start up, but then it would be much easier to scale up and to exit, or even to exit before scaling up in some cases. So no one of us can guess what will be the next 30 years, but I think there will be interesting challenges. And again, challenges are also good opportunities to us to win the next wave. Because usually, as you see, from 10, 20 years, 40 years, and if you look to, there is a guy on Twitter which has a very good stats about companies who have been founded in the last decades. And you would see that Google and Facebook almost started Amazon on the same time, then Intel, Microsoft, Cisco a little bit before, and then they got disrupted by the next wave. So the deep tech wave is what we envision as what will be the disruptors of the next wave of entrepreneurship that will make almost irrelevant the previous players, the ones that today we believe are kind of kings in the earth. And that's why these kings are trying to invest in the ones. Again, these kings are trying to invest in the ones that can conquer the future in order to protect themselves. It's survival mode. It's the human nature. It's the history of the world. It's about trying to survive and the preservation of the species. So Third question. Yeah, sure.
Since some of them were talking about strategies level of Samaria, let me ask you some question about execution. Since most of the science parks and incubators that are involved in this session have done part of the startup development in their works and their jobs, but if we would like to choose those from startup companies to be scale-ups, what would be your recommendations or suggestions of how we can select the potential startups to be scale-up?
Another good question, a very good question. Do you remember the quote, scale-ups are not late-stage startups. There are very good startups that will never become scale-ups. They are great micro-businesses, very, very profitable, that will never scale, and that's okay. First of all, it should be also the choice of the founding team. The founding team could want to scale or not want to scale. It could be a lifestyle business, and that's okay. That's the decision of the founding team, and we need to respect it. We just need, that's why I want to work with high-growth firms, and that's why we selected in the criteria 15% of exports, because it shows me a certain will already to go outside. I can in a certain way validate your intent, your commitment to grow your business. So if you don't want to grow your business, I don't want to join you the program, because I will not get the results, you will not get the results, we will be both sad about the results that we will get. So how to select? I would say that's, again, as we were discussing with our own business, because I also have a certain kind of business like yours, but in my case, it's private. So I also need to create my business model and to generate my business model and test different products to make this sustainable. And my business is not too much scalable as the tech company. We already discussed it, neither yours. So that's how it works. So I would say that the natural selection, as it is with our businesses, it would be with the startups. So the ones that you see that are growing to 10 employees, $1 million US, it's a natural validation that they are ready to go to the next stage. So I would say they have to have at least the $500K US of revenues or the 11 employees to start working on the scale-up stage. And in that sense, it would be very easy to you to figure out not what are the startups that are ready, and another part which is cultural and social psychological evaluation. Are you really committed to grow? Do you really want this? Do you want to go to live abroad? Do you want to start living maybe in the US because it will become your larger market and the CEO needs to be there? It doesn't mean that you will not have the majority of our employees in talent, but are you willing to change your life to be away of your family for the next 20 years? That's a okay decision. These are always very profound and very hectic questions to answer, and very few people are able to pay the price. So I would say these are the two dynamics. One, I think it's quite easy. Look to the numbers. And the second is a kind of, it's the same when we are recruiting people, right? Do you have the skills? Okay, you have the experience, you have the track record. If you are a little bit more junior, okay, the technical side is not so much important, it's much more the drive. So show me situations where you had very big challenges. Okay, so it was because you didn't have money to pay your studies. Tell me how did you solve that? Okay, you will assess in a certain way what was the drive. The people was really committed to educate themselves and to find out a solution and not to put ourselves in a self-pity situation that we are poor, we don't have any solutions or so on. What is really the drive? The person wants to win, or not. So I would say this is the way we would select startups that are prepared to go to the next level. About the Industry 4.0, it's the same, but they are not in the incubation programs. So we need to hire a company who is tracking this information. And we have already talked a little bit about this also during lunch, that there is companies like Crunchbase in the US or Dealroom in the Netherlands who are doing it quite well. And it would be even more important to be part of their platform to be easier for international investors, international customers to find you than to start a platform from the scratch for the region. I think it is not the best way, because then you will need to communicate this platform to all the investors. And all of them are already there, so why not just update the stats over there? So that's just my view in that perspective. So I would say for tech, your question was much more directed on the tech programs that you are already running. And then from the scale-up, non-tech scale-up, I would do this. There are two ways to go. One is finding out the results. And the second way is, but you also need another one, which is to have the metrics. It's also to have a magazine like Fortune or Forbes opening applications. So you need to have this criteria to apply to the problem, as it happens with the incubation or the acceleration, and then we will select the best ones to incorporate the batch. And in some cases, maybe in the beginning, again, nobody is aware about what is a scale-up, so we need to be funded programs, but then you can start having 50% public funding, 50% private funding, and you can also start making agreements. Okay, we pay for your training, but in 3 years, we will pay back your training if you scale. So if you achieve a certain amount of metrics in 3 years, he would pay the cost or a little bit an extra for the ones who don't achieve the results, and you create a sustainable cycle in your business model, which means that the funds of one batch will fund the following batch. It's again a sustainability way. It's not so linear, I know. We need to find out the vehicles to do it. But I think in this way, you don't take equity of the company, so which is a little bit easier to negotiate. Additional questions about? The front row and the middle row almost is only missing 2 people in the middle row and 1 in the first, and in the last row everybody is quite silent. I don't know. Mix, no questions? Okay, so if there is no additional questions, would you be happy to just to try to start what is going on your mind for the next 90 days? Again, it doesn't need to be very analytical, very precise. We are not here for that. But if we can help to, to get from the overwhelming situation where we feel there is so much to do that I don't know where to start, what is the one thing that I can do in the 90 days? So who would like to start with what is in your mind, and even what you are still confused about, if you should start with one thing or another thing, or you don't know where to start? It could be also another option. We are here to support you with that. Yeah.
I have a question myself, can you share us how you sustain your company? Because because Scale Up Academy, it's helped somebody else scale up, then how you scale yourself, and then what is strategy on that?
Cool, perfect. Wow, now I will share our strategic plan. Oops, it's a difficult one. Thank you. So I thank you. Kom kun krab. So again, like any entrepreneur who starts up a company, we started in 2013. So we needed to, with a small investment of the founding partners, myself and Mary, who started the company. So typically, small business bootstrapping. We needed to figure out an easy way to start generating revenues. So we have been in the discovery process quite a while, trying to serve. Our initial idea was much more to be a kind of a CEO academy. The first name of our company was, and maybe I can share some of the iterations just to see the process and how painful it is to start up even a services company that is not scalable like the ones we have talked about. So the first concept, the first tagline was from CEO to CEO. And again, it's always related with the story of the founders. So my family had faced a bankruptcy in a family company in the shoes industry. So it was on my adolescence. It was a very painful moment. We had access to everything, holidays internationally, etc. And at a certain moment, we didn't have almost enough to eat at home, which was a little bit scary. I never believed it at that time that we were in that situation. Later on, I figured out why some things were happening at that time, because of course the parents tried to avoid to share with the kids what is going on. So I would be the third generation succeeding my parents leading the business, and I was almost ready to jump in, not ready, but I would say another 3 years, ready to jump in, maybe starting working in a position and then succeeding my father as the CEO of the business. And it went in a bankruptcy, and a bankruptcy process, we discussed this morning, it's 5 to 10 years. My parents didn't have access to credit cards. Criminals, again, it's a kind of society, criminals. And then I joined the branding agency, and in the branding agency, I was the youngest of the team, and I started working in the financial department. And the company was small, so in that sense, I didn't need quite fast. I became the CFO of the company, so which means it was difficult to be a full-time job as the CFO of the company. So I started advising businesses, so micro businesses, small and medium businesses, corporate businesses, some of the largest brands, on branding strategy. And then I figured out to set up a good branding strategy, I needed to figure out a good corporate and business strategy before. And then I understood that, okay, to be able, it's very good if we do all the charts, and that's why I'm so obsessed about execution, about getting out something out of this. Okay, why we all agreed inside the room that this should be the way, and in the next week I come back and nothing happens. In the next 90 days I come back, nothing happens. In the next semester I come back and the pains are the same and nothing happens. And I figured out it was about execution. And from execution I understood that it was not about the external obstacles, it is about the internal obstacles. And it's not only inside the team, it's inside ourselves. We are our most important enemies about executing anything. Why? Because we need to change our minds and we need to use our minds as a tool. And I went in the personal development industry in a certain way, and I started working, and then I understood, okay, if the CEO or the owners don't have the right mindset, it doesn't matter who joins. So I need to start working with the CEO. That's when that's when I became had the opportunity to become the CEO of the company. So the founder was running the company for the last 10 years, and I became the CEO of the company, and then we grew the company, but it was very painful. I was very close to a burnout. Again, I was the youngest of my team. I didn't have the degree yet at that stage, so it was an economic crisis period. Our industry was shifting completely from graphic design to digital. I started working with designers, with engineers, with developers, etc. And there was no business model available at that stage. All the agencies were in a crisis moment. So it was really difficult. And when we finally turned around the company, because we also faced the crisis, I decided, okay, I don't want anybody to live what I have lived, turning around the company and facing the bankruptcy of my parents' company. So, and that's why it was a so important passion and purpose that will allow you to be working in the business for the next 20, 30 years, and I would say in my case, I think for my entire life. But open to another path that life offers me. So that's when we created MDA. It was the initial name. It was a little bit egocentric. It was Miguel Diaz Advisors. And it was an international network of CEOs globally, already with members in 5 continents since day one. So I went 12 months contacting people all over the world to join the network who supported other CEOs with the motto from CEO to CEO, which means only a mother understands another mother, only a father understands another father, only a CEO understands another CEO. So, and we had 3 business tiers or 3 products. Number 1, one-to-one mentoring. Number 2, centers of excellence, task forces. So you need to figure out how we will expand to a certain country or need to conduct a digital transformation program. I would put 6 experts of the best in the world in that field, and they will jump in, and in 2 weeks they will solve what needs to be done, and then they will follow up instead of trying to figure out yourself from the beginning everything. So the idea was very powerful. We are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So if we surround with the right people, if we surround with the people that we want to become, we will become like them. So this was the purpose, and that's the purpose of the Scale Up Academy itself. I want to have the people who have scaled up the businesses to understand what are their habits, and I will incorporate their habits, and the results will inevitably be the same. Not because the decisions and what I will do will be the same, but because I will incorporate the same habits and the same behaviors, and this will conduct to the same results, but different actions. So this is important. So that's and the fourth product was peer groups. There was almost 3 organizations that we had as a benchmark, which was YPO, EO. The founder of EO was Vern Arnish, the author of the book Scaling Up, that is today my reference. And of course, I asked the question about the third product. Who is the best guy in the world in this? And I found the founder of the EO, the founder of IPO, and the founder of Vistas in the US, and I contacted them. Okay, look, I'm trying to do the same that you guys have done in this product, but I want to do this online. So I don't want to have in-person local groups. I want to have global digital groups. Explain how did you have built your business. So I want to learn with you, and if possible, I want to have you as advisors of my company. Advisory board members, so I will not pay them nothing. That's the point. And so these were the 3 products. One-on-one mentoring, typical fee of mentoring of advisor, and we get a part of the proposal. Second, centers of excellence, so typically consulting projects on the field for a short amount of time. And fourth, peer groups online, which was based in a membership. So to attend the different groups, to support each other every month, you would need to pay a membership to be part of it. The business model, it was too many products in the startup stage, free. It was too many. We didn't have enough resources to grow free products. First important decision, kill 2 of the products. Let's work just with one product. So let's go to the peer groups, because that's where we have the most important drive when we see the competitive advantage and the passion and the purpose is aligned. And let's rebrand the business. So let's forget MDA, let's call it CEO World. So this was the name of CEO World. And later on, we were working with all industries, with micro enterprises, small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses, and we figured out, you remember the exercise, from free products to one product. It's too many segments. We need to kill segments. And in all of this process, we need to fire clients, which were important at that time, because they were paying, they were our case studies to acquire new companies. And all of these were always done online with some interactions in person. Why? Because it was too expensive to travel, and there was a small amount of cash flow available. So we needed to be quite dynamic. My home became the LinkedIn, Skype. It was my home. Every single day from 9 to 6, slots of 20 to 30 minutes with all the continents every single day. Customers, providers, advisors, etc., my weekly meetings. We didn't know that we were also building the knowledge about how to manage a global business in different time zones with different offices. That's when we took the decision of, okay, what are the opportunities in the market? And remember, we were connected with Vern Arnish already, not because of scale-ups, but because of the EO, because of peer groups for CEOs. And we said, okay, there is huge gaps on the scaling up ecosystem. We have real fun to work with companies who are really growing. We have a lot of fun doing. It's interesting because it was not only the profitable side of it, it was the funny, the combination with the funny side and the profitable side. And that's when we rebranded again the business, and it became ScaleUpAcademy.io. Of course, owned by CEO World. CEO World will keep being one of the products just for the CEOs, but ScaleUp Academy is for middle management and top management, and in some exceptions to frontline employees. So global platform, traveling every single week, initially in Europe, in-person interaction, really important. We already had the funds to go in person to the offices of our clients and start doing in-person workshops, in-person programs. In Europe, Paris, Berlin, London, which account for 50% of the market of scale-ups. Then we decided it's time to find another funding partner which has a strong understanding of the Asian world. That's why in 2016, Andrew Wong joined the team. Okay, and now we are present in Asia, Europe, US, because we already have very good links in the US. And culturally, it's very easy for us, Latin America. And there is some connections in Africa, but not for the whole continent. So now it arrived at the time to grow in Asia, as Europe is almost conquered in our business model. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here today. So in a nutshell, now we understood, and what we have done in one of our initial clients in the segment of the supporting organizations, which was the association that I told you. we understood when we developed the program with them, when we started doing events to bring international investors to Portugal, and the ecosystem was at completely a revolution. So 12 or 18 months after our work, it was a huge difference with very small initiatives. So a scale-up program, we busy events that were to attract international investors to come to Portugal to talk about international markets, international missions. So a huge difference, and we got it. We have a new product here. So we need to serve scale-ups. That's what we are doing at online program and offline programs, in-person program, and one feeds another. So in the offline program, you can keep in the program online, and vice versa, you can start online, and if we have enough critical mass, we go offline to your country or to your region, and we run a program there, as we'd like to do next year in Thailand. It's okay, let's have a program. Maybe some of the ones that will go will want to keep having assistance online, and maybe we will do an in-person program every year. So 2 different segments, the scale-up companies and supporting organizations to the scale-ups. So I would say this is the stage where we are. Now it's about growing in Asia. Malaysia and Thailand are, we hope, the roots of our initial growth here in the region. Then it's to consolidate here our presence. And next there is another 2 continents or half continent and another continent to conquer. But again, this is a 20-year plan, and we are just in the first 5 years. The 5 years I've already completed, so we are in the 6th year. But as you see, very painful decisions along the way, firing clients a lot of times, having our revenues going down, then to go up much higher, simplifying the business, simplifying the vision, simplifying the business model. I think the word is always simplifying. If you could work with one, not with 3 or with 4. Just one goal after another, being very focused. So, in a nutshell, that's a short story about how we build a sustainable business model in your industry.
And like how you expand your network, because like you have a lot of mentor that listed on your website, and then the second question is like how you pay them, because like sometimes we're afraid that some very famous mentoring or some very famous startups that we ask them to be our mentor, we don't know how to give to pay them. I mean, I know it's either cash or non-cash thing.
So it's again about the value proposition. And in this case is what the mentor wants. What is the goal of the mentor for the next 90 days, for the next 52 weeks, for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years? Vision and mission. What resonates with him? What we know, what resonates with a lot of mentors are the ones who faced the same pain. You remember, I started my business because I didn't want anybody to face what I faced. That's why I started my business. So, do you think that I'm not able to talk with an entrepreneur who doesn't have money to pay me? Only if I don't have time. Only. I would be available. Of course, if an entrepreneur has the resources, an organization has the resources, I also need to make my business profitable, and they would pay. But there is an entrepreneur that I see that I can help, and he doesn't have the money, I will give my time with pleasure. And I would be very happy if he gets some results. And I don't ask nothing. I don't want nothing. It's his merit. So if I was able to help, perfect. So I'd say that this is the way, and you will also have mentors that are in a different life cycle of their lives. And this is, again, counterintuitive. The ones who are more happy to help are the most successful ones. It was much easier to us to get to the best tech companies in the world, to the founder of EO, than to middle-level companies, middle-level employees in that companies, because they still need money. They are still in their journey to accumulate resources, and they also have their families, and they have a trade of time and money, which means that maybe 80% of their time is to do revenue-generating activities, and 20% is social activities that doesn't generate revenue. When I'm here, when money is not important anymore to me, what I will do maybe is 80%, it's about big vision, big impact. It's time or social. I want to multiply my impact. I don't want to help one entrepreneur. I don't want to help a batch of 10. I want to know how I can impact 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, 1 billion, 7 billion, which is the entire world. What can I do to impact all of them? And 20% is about revenue generating, which is also counterintuitive, is that when we focus on the 80% of adding value with someone, what happens is that, as a miracle, you will even get more revenues and more resources than what you were getting in the beginning. I always give this example. Cristiano Ronaldo, as you know, won the Ballon d'Or, or the award of the best player in Europe and in the world. And do you think that Cristiano Ronaldo pays his lunch when he's invited to go anywhere, his dinner, his hotel, his flight? There is always a sponsor who would pay everything. Do you think that Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't have the money to pay everything? He doesn't pay nothing. So it's counterintuitive. The ones who need the less are the ones who get always more value, because they are adding value, because they are world-class in what they do. So, and this is the difficult part of understanding how to serve the mentors. And then, what will happen is that you will find a lot of mentors in the beginning, and you will get rejected 99% of the times. And it will not work, and you will become even more afraid to contact them. Even more afraid. Each time more afraid. This is not my game, this is not my game, this is not my game. So we need to forget all of it and try again, and try again, and try again, and try again. Again, it's not in the next 6 months. It's a long-term job. It's about creating relationship. It's not about asking nothing. It's about trying to understand how I can add value to them. They got a lot of value. Did it help about the... Was it helpful, the conversation about the mentors? It's again counterintuitive. And again, you remember also here the different segments, the corporates, the investors, the mentors? If you have the best startups, they would have so much fun working with them, so much fun. Because the kind of challenge that they have to solve, really, it's a lot of fun. If it is a boring startup working in a boring industry that they don't, and again, it's a mentor who understands, who has passion about a certain vertical. Why do I like to work with you? Because I'm in the same industry. I face the same pains, right? That's why we resonate much more with each other. And also not only for the mentor, for the mentee. You feel, oh, this guy really has done something, has something to share. It doesn't need to invent things. It can talk about what he has faced before, and that's the point. More questions? This is improving. And nobody tells me what we'll do in the next 90 days. I'm getting a little bit worried that maybe nothing will happen. So and as you know, it completely kills me, so yes.
I'm gonna keep asking if you don't ask.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember your first customer? Do you still remember him or her? Or
That's a good challenge what you are doing.
Okay. All right. What is
So at the end I will.
Yeah. Right. And then, how do you get your first customer to work with you? Long time ago. I know that. It's like
Yes.
10, 20 years.
Yes.
You see it like because I know that at that time and today going to be your customer coming to you going to be with different mindset and then different approach.
Absolutely.
Can you share us way back?
Of course, I think that our first customers are always our parents in a certain way. We want them to be happy with our performance. So I would say that they were our first customers, and they even pay us. Our parents go to school and so on, they pay us our salaries when we are young, right? So I think that they would be the first customers. The second customer, it was the first person who believed in me to employ me. It was the founder of the branding agency with 10 years, and who needed someone to look to the numbers of the company and to do the payments without being afraid or worried about missing something. So this was my second customer, maybe. I should have another customers in between. Then my other customers were the internal clients, so the team that I need to pay the salaries, the clients that I need to send the reports. Even I start negotiating with the clients because we put it in the Excel file all the hours that our branding team was working, because we had a lot of monthly retainers, and need to negotiate them. Look, we are having certain amount of hours of design, of copy, of programming, and the monthly retainer is not able to pay this, so we need to negotiate better terms and so on. So that way I start being much more active, even with a financial perspective, not too much how can I add value to your business, but the financials need to work in the way that I'm adding value to your business. Then it was consulting business. So I don't remember, by the way, who was, who was my first customer in terms of advisory. But I believe one of the most important customers in terms of advisory, it was the school where I studied. So the school where I studied, the colleges, wanted to run a strategic plan for the in 2 different cities, for the 4 schools. And at that time I was 24 years old, and they asked me to help them, and all the board was older than 60 years old. So and the president of the schools asked me to help them, to advise them to build a strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years. So I think that this was one of the most, again, another proof of trust, again, a long relationship. He knew me since I was a kid, I was a student, so he knew my values and my way of being, so he believed that I knew quite well even the schools as clients myself, as user, because my parents were the ones who were paying for me to attend. So he decided that I could be the right person to advise them. Then it was for instance, funny stories, as Mary was saying, a guy from India, I think he was based in Mumbai, who approached me via internet, online, and wanted to have a kind of a career coaching about what would be the next step. And he was looking to my social media profile on LinkedIn, Facebook, and so in Twitter, and he found out that I could be helpful, helping him and to understand what to do next. Again, it was not the typical service that I was doing. It was much more CEO advisory or top management advisory. But he was so insistent and he wanted so much to work with me. Then I even invoiced him to start, and I thought, he will never pay the invoice. And one day later, the invoice was paid. So, and we started working. You know, this is the kind of, okay, from another continent, India, somebody is reaching out to me without being with me in person ever. It feels that he knows me for the last 10 or 20 years. It does a bank transfer without knowing if I can provide value to them, because in a certain way, he thought that I was already providing value, without even knowing that I was providing value. So maybe these are some of the stories of the first customers on the, and again, we come back to what we discussed in the morning in the startup stage. It's about reputation, trust, network. So the ones who will trust you in the beginning are your family, are your friends, are your teachers, are your closest network. So the family, friends, and fools, right?
One funny story was a CEO that wanted to be mentor of him, and ask you to mentor him while running.
Yeah, it was the first mentoring program that I have done. We woke up every 2 days a week for 1 year. It was the program, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 a.m. and we would run for an hour. And we would just do this kind of exercises. Tell me the metrics. Tell me what is your goals for the next week. Are you getting the metrics? Are you on the right track? Are you saying this because this is what you want? So asking him a lot of questions, never giving answers, just helping him to think in a certain way. Sometimes I was even confused with my own methodology. So what I should do next, and what I will be talking about for 1 hour. So especially 2 days a week, right? Nothing changes so much from Tuesday to Thursday, next to next Tuesday. But yes, he just liked one of the Facebook posts when I said that I was here. One of them even said, "Good luck with the event." And this is the kind of relation. They are then my salespeople and my ambassadors who bring in new customers. So, but now it became too much Scale-Up Academy. Opportunitie is being helpful. It is not about me, it's about you. The microphone?
So this question might be more related to the association that I'm working with.
Yeah, sure.
Since I told you before that Thai Bispo was founded for 9 years, and the first 5 years is more like just to get it going. So for the last 5 years, we are moving more strategically to be a catalyst of innovation ecosystem in Thailand. And right now, as we saw the opportunities to scale up the association itself, not only to serve our network in Thailand, but also our colleagues in other countries, basically in those ASEAN countries, one for the emerging one like in Vietnam and Laos, Indonesia and Philippines. And also we would like to leverage the power of ASEAN countries together. So to answer your question about what's going to happen in the next 90 days from now, we are going to have the Voice of Customer session next week at the General Assembly of the Association to ask what is our members thinking about the association and what they expect from us. And then from that, we will build up the more like the 2-year or 3 years plan to handle that expectation. And then we would like to probably create common platforms that might be benefit to those in the domestic community and those in the international communities. As I mentioned to you during lunch, we were trying to help in the human capital side, where most of the incubators are facing the challenges of high turnover ratio of their staff, and most of the tacit knowledge was gone when the staff left. So we would try to build up that kind of digital incubation process to help them keep track of the process that they use to help the companies or the clients of the incubator, and also to still keep that knowledge into the system where there is some newcomer joining the team. They can keep up their knowledge about that piece of work later from one another. And then the second platform that we would like to introduce is the model. We call it maturity model, just to give a framework to all the community to see the sustainability of how incubation would look like. So we would work this model not only with the Thailand's colleagues, but also we will push this agenda into the ASEAN community. We probably would talk to Andrew and some other key players in other ASEAN countries. That's what we are planning.
Congratulations. It sounds a great plan.
Maybe some recommendations or suggestions from you. Once we've got that feedback from the domestic or local community, what should be the next step from that?
Got it. It depends a lot on what will be the feedback, but I would say that yes, your clients are all of these players, right? So, and by the way, this was already an exercise today for you, and we understood what are the main pains that they are facing, and yes, in a certain way, I think that you are already trying to solve. What are the tools available to manage better and to make this a business, which is not a typical business, a profitable business, but a sustainable or non-profit business in a certain way that is sustainable. And we have discussed it. So I think that an initiative like this, it's already part of the value that you are providing to your associates or clients. Then again, I would. That's what we have been talking always. I would take the 10. Yeah, and then what are the 10 most common challenges? And then I would go to 3, and then to prioritize over actions. And I would start just with 1, of course, always. So I would say this is the most simple exercise, and every 90 days for 13 weeks, you should review. So I believe that a quarterly meeting with, couldn't be, ideally it would be all of them, but if not, a sample that will be different from quarter to quarter, to have them together and to go through again the same exercise. So tell me about what are your 10 or 5 most important pains. What do you think are the one that really keeps you awake of time, and try to open this one in potential actions. And I was asking them, how do you think that I can support you? What is something that, in my role, I should do as the next step? So yeah, I think that in a certain way, your business is very similar to their business in a certain way, but they are your clients, and you need to help your clients to help their clients. It's always how it works. Yeah, but it sounds a very good plan. Do you plan to do something related with the scale-up segment that we discussed this morning, or?
From my point of view, those who, the companies that came into science parks and incubators program are not quite in the digital technology, because those digital startups or companies, they have their own, I would say, ecosystem, and they are quite active in that sense. So from those who join the programs are more like the deep tech or SMEs. So that's why the first 2 questions that these guys mentioned were all about the non-digitalized companies, because we deal with another category of clients which not much digitalized.
Yeah, but it is clear to all that scale-ups, it's not only digital, it's also non-digital. And why do you think that it will not work too much for the non-tech, or?
We don't mean that, but still, there are several reasons behind that. As I mentioned, some of the companies doesn't have that scale-up mindset to their maybe management team or founders at the beginning. So this probably not be their agenda to accomplish for the growth. Secondly, maybe as I mentioned, the culture, the size of domestic market like Thailand is quite comparable. So it's not too big, but it's not too small. So they think if at the beginning, if they can achieve like domestic market, they are doing well. So they might not be that passionate enough to go scaling. That is what I can think of. Maybe some other guys can add more of the challenges we found in helping the companies to scale up themselves. For me, the mindset is the most killing one.
Yeah. Got it. So do you all face this issue? But we have discussed it also when I think it was you who asked about the sustainability of the model, that with this kind of companies, it would be very difficult. So with them, you will not achieve sustainability. So here you can focus on corporates, I would say number 1, maybe investors, difficult, but it could be possible in the next wave, not in the present. I think it would be very difficult to them to take part of the fund to fund you. I don't see it possible. So corporates, it's really the way, and there is a customer discovery process to work with the corporates, and also a lot of benchmarks available. So this is the number 1 priority, how to articulate the value proposition in a language that the corporates would not have the courage to deny your proposal, would say, please, 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 work with me, and even being competitive between them to want to work with you. But then there is this opportunity, which are the scale-ups, the companies who are scaling up and who are between the 50 and the 2050, who already have the resources to pay for this. That could be another opportunity of funding the business of supporting startups. So it seems that this is not yet, after the numbers that we saw in the morning, it seems that it's not yet on your radar from what I heard during this beginning of this discussion in the afternoon. So you are still asking the question in another way around. So the question, what I'm saying is there is here an opportunity of a segment. You need to find an agency who is able to track, or maybe it is already tracked with a company. I don't know here in Thailand what is this company. And you can start serving this segment who in 3 years can provide you the results and the virtual sustainable model. But instead of attacking this opportunity, what you are telling me is, look, how can I select the startups that I'm serving to pick the ones who can scale up? And we discussed it in the morning that scale-ups are not late-stage startups. So this is the wrong question. How can I help my startups to scale up? You can't. Some of them will start scaling up, and that's the moment where you get in. So you don't pick them. You just see some of them becoming outliers, and you create a program for them. But there is already in your community, in your region, in your city, in your state, whatever it is, a number of companies who are scaling up, who are not served. And I believe that today we are here still with a mindset, and how do I adapt my business model to help the startups to scale up? And we agreed in the morning that's not the mindset. It's a new segment, it's a new product, it's a new opportunity. Again, it will not be short-term results. Also, the corporate way will not also be short-term results. We are talking about the next 3 years. How do we make a sustainable business model? And this could be 2 avenues. And the first avenue is a kind of the deal flow, the pipeline for the corporates, part of the value proposition for the corporates. Not so much important for the scale-ups, but they can also be acquirers in the late stages, M&A. They can also be interested in being in touch with the startups. Even in the access to talent, in the case of the universities here present, how they get access, how they get visible to the engineers who are being graduated to join their companies. You can do events about attracting talent, offering job openings to your graduates and offering value to the companies because they get preferential access and exposure to your graduates and would get inspired to work to them. You see, there is another product, another service, another value proposition that you can already offer to scale-ups that in that way are a little bit more sexy than corporates. And even corporates want to have access to talent, but nowadays you already do this with corporates, I'm sure, in the university, in the job fair, and so on. So yeah, that's my perception from this side. Am I right, or we are still consolidating what we discussed in the morning? Was this an accurate analysis, or is I'm completely missing the picture? Do you feel this? Yes or no? You'd say yes? What would you say?
It's okay. I may ask you on Sunday because you can have like on the station and I can
Yes.
ask you on Sunday. And tomorrow you can have another workshop here.
By the way, if you want to get a feeling about how to run a scale-up workshop, as I told you in the morning, feel free to join. A little bit more as attendees, not participating too much, because it would be much more for the scale-ups itself. But you get the feeling about how it works. It's just one day. It's not a 6-month program. We don't have unicorns coming and investors to help them. It's much more about the tools that they can use. But I think it would be helpful to get a feeling and to be more specific, more tangible, what we have been talking about. And on Sunday, I will be also delivering one-to-one mentoring to the batch that will be in the workshop. And I will deliver a keynote at 11:30 on Sunday. But at 11:30, it would be a quick, very quick summary of what we discussed today and what I will discuss tomorrow with them. I think it's 9:30 year 2. Yes, it will be in the same place. If any of you are able to join, please feel free. Just let us know how many of you would join in order to have enough shares to. I think it would not be a problem for the organization, but just to assure that we have all prepared, to nobody to stand up all the session.
Tomorrow is like a deeply on the tools, and then it's not like today. It's more than that, more than today.
Yes.
The targets for tomorrow are the companies. So you can see the example that they're using that to use, and then working with the platform service and advisory from the real company.
Yeah. So it's about solving the gaps that I told you in practice. It's already about not designing solutions. It's about executing solutions. It's a one-day workshop. It's not a long program. It will be just a flavor, but you get the feeling of the methodology that we use, and that we can apply, of course, with your scale-ups.
Don't forget the textbook that he mentioned.
Yes. Can you put the screen, please? So now I'm promoting the company of Vern Arnish. So you can sign up for the weekly newsletter and you get some of the thoughts of Vern every single week. You have the growth tools and other resources. The growth tools, I think that you don't have it, but are, as I was telling you, there are 4 different colors of decisions that you need to make right in order to scale up your business. It's these colors. Number 1 is people. Number 2 is strategy. Number 3 is execution. And number 4, cash. And for each of these decisions that you need to take, there are 3-4 frameworks that you need to, to fill in the blanks. This is an example of one of the tools for people. You have a kind of a life plan. It's very important what we discussed. What is the motivation of the founder, of the founding team, what we want to achieve as a human being, and how it connects with the business, right? And by the way, it's also a good exercise for each of the employees, how their life plan connects with the business, how much it is aligned, much easier it would be to the business to have success. Again, backing to Jack Ma. Customer being happy employees happy, stakeholders happy, the results will be much better. This is another one about assuring that you have the right people on the right seats, on the right functions. This one is about you have to have a good understanding of the processes and the way you are measuring the quality, the effectiveness of the processes. Then you have, let me see if I can find here. Yes, there is the overview in the beginning of the book. I really recommend you to, again, to buy the book if you are able to do it on Amazon, for instance. You have a summary of people, so with the three main tools, then strategy, the same kind of exercise, core values, purpose, brand promises, what you want to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years, 1 year and a quarter, a kind of the exercise that we were doing with you, because again, these are tools that are applicable to any single business. So it's not only for scale-ups, there are universal principles of managing companies. But of course, to implement all of this in a startup, it would be too messy. It starts making sense on a scale. Also because why? You need to start formalize the strategy and formalize the communication, because it would be very difficult to communicate with 50 or 20, 250 people or 500 people if you don't have it written down in a certain place that you can discuss, that you can, iterate and discuss with each other. So this is about strategy. This is about execution, a series of habits, and assuring that you conclude any meeting with a who, what, and when. This is about cash. So what is the impact of collecting one day before, of paying one day after, and how to accelerate the cash that gets in the business. So this is the framework to manage the business. You can use these tools every single day, every single week, every single month, every single quarter, and every single year to be on the same page. And then even your team all the teams should read the book and start applying the framework, and it starts being your language inside the company. So when somebody talks about the big airy audacious goal, the BAG, the big vision, the 25 years vision, everyone knows and can say exactly the same, what will be the goal for the next 25 years, and can also say what is the goal for the next quarter, next 90 days. So this would be what will be discussed tomorrow in detail, and we'll do, of course, exercises with them with the different growth tools. So these frameworks that I've been showing you, that's on the video. Let's see. I think that I never saw the video.
Steve is the leader of a growing firm. He wants to scale up his business, but it feels like he alone is carrying the entire load up the hill. Wasn't it supposed to get easier as the business scales? Yet instead of the additional team members providing wind to Steve's back, everyone seems to be rowing the boat in a totally different direction. Growth has slowed, profits aren't scaling with revenues, and his family and friends haven't seen Steve in ages. Worse, it seems like what he has done to get the business to the size it is now just doesn't seem to be what will get it to the next level. In order to scale up the business and enjoy the climb, there are 4 decisions Steve and the rest of the executive team must get right. 1. People. Are the company's stakeholders, his employees, customers, and shareholders happy and engaged in the business? And can he find enough of the right people to grow the business? 2. Strategy. Can the team state the firm's market-dominating strategy simply, and is it driving sustainable growth in revenue and gross margins? 3. Execution. Are all processes running without drama and driving industry-leading profitability? 4. Cash. Does the business model generate consistent sources of cash, ideally internally, to fuel the growth of the business? If you're in the same boat as Steve, we have the tools to help you figure out the answers to these questions. Simple tools, like our famous one-page strategic plan used by over 40,000 companies around the world, and practical techniques these companies have used to scale to 10 million, 100 million, and $1 billion and beyond, which can help reduce the time you spend managing your business by 80%. so you can focus on the market-facing activities necessary to grow your business, while getting everyone aligned to help you execute your plans, as well as double your cash flow, grow to 3 times industry average profitability, and most importantly, get your sanity back, so you can stop spending all of your time trying to keep the wheels from falling off as you whiz down the road. To find out more, go to www.scalingup.com.
So some publicity to Von Ardish, this company. Yeah, but we really recommend them too. Yeah, it would be the workshop tomorrow. It would be with these tools and with certain adaptation of what we believe that could add value. As you know, we have also another workshops that combine these tools. We have the international tech companies coming in to share their experience, the one-to-one methodology. So it's a program which is inspired in terms of tools in the solution of Word, but who has our own methodology. So in a nutshell, that's it. If you want to see in practice a little bit more in detail how it works, please feel free to join. Tomorrow, as I was telling you, we will also have them doing exercises, doing discussion, because what we realize is they are all busy, so they are not doing these exercises, and in one day I want them to come out of the workshop with some of the frameworks completed. So they will come to work on the people, strategy, execution, and cash. So it will be much less about me talking, it will be much more about them talking with each other. And we'll try to facilitate that. Don't tell them this. So any final questions, or should we wrap up at this stage? Wrap up? Okay. Khop kun khap. Thank you so much. Congratulations.